In the early 2000s, the Los Angeles Lakers were more than just a basketball team. They were an empire, a blend of talent, style, swagger, and dominance. Led by two of the most electrifying athletes the NBA had ever seen, Shaquille O'Neal, the unstoppable force, and Kobe Bryant, the immovable will. They were the NBA's main event, unstoppable on the court, headline makers off it. And between 2000 to 2002, they ruled the league, winning 3 straight NBA championships. But behind the glory, behind the rings, was a ticking time bomb. A feud so intense, it didn't just break up a team. It destroyed a dynasty that could have ruled the league for a decade. This is the story of how two legends rose together and then tore it all apart. Part 1. The beginning of something special. The story begins in 1996. The Lakers were looking for a fresh start. That summer, the franchise landed the biggest free agent on the market, Shaquille O'Neal, a 7'1", 325-pound wrecking ball from Orlando. At the same time, a high school phenom named Kobe Bryant had just declared for the NBA draft. He was traded to the Lakers on draft night, just 17 years old. Few knew it then, but these two would change the league forever. Shaq was in his prime, funny, charismatic, beloved by fans, and unstoppable in the paint. Kobe was raw but fearless, obsessed with greatness, and carried himself like a veteran from day one. They started slow, the chemistry wasn't instant, but everyone saw the potential. By 1999, Phil Jackson, the Zen Master who coached the Bulls to 6 titles, took over. He brought the triangle offense. He brought discipline. He brought belief. And that's when it all clicked. Part 2. The three-peat years, 2000 to 2002. The Lakers became a juggernaut. 2000, they won 67 games. Shaq was named MVP, averaging 29.7 points and 13.6 rebounds. Kobe, now in his 4th year, was emerging as one of the best two-way players in the league. They bulldozed through the playoffs. Shaq dominated. Kobe saved them in Game 7 versus Portland. They defeated the Indiana Pacers in the finals. First title, complete. 2001, even better. They went 15-1 in the postseason, one of the greatest playoff runs ever. Kobe torched the Spurs in the Western Conference Finals. Shaq was still the focal point, but Kobe was rising fast. 2002, they completed the three-peat, swept the Kings in a controversial Western Conference Finals, beat the New Jersey Nets in the finals. 3 years, 3 titles, one of the most dominant runs in NBA history. On paper, everything was perfect, but off the court, the feud was simmering. Part 3. Ego clashes, Shaq versus Kobe. Their personalities clashed from the beginning. Shaq was playful, outgoing, relaxed. Kobe was introverted, intense, obsessed with being the best. Shaq believed he was the team's anchor and wanted more touches, more credit, more respect. Kobe felt he worked harder than anyone and deserved to lead, to take the last shots, to be recognized as an equal. In practices, they bickered. In media interviews, they traded subtle shots. Shaq would say things like, "The team needs to play through me. I'm the most dominant ever." Kobe would respond with, "If Shaq worked as hard as me, we'd never lose." Phil Jackson tried to manage the storm. He once described coaching them as like managing 2 adolescent boys fighting over the last slice of pizza. The locker room became divided. Some players leaned toward Shaq. Others backed Kobe. The media fanned the flames. Reporters asked if they could coexist. TV shows debated who was more valuable, and the tension kept growing. Part 4. The final straw. 2004 season collapse. By the 2003 to 2004 season, the Dynasty was on life support. The Lakers added Karl Malone and Gary Payton in a last-ditch effort to win another title. On paper, they looked unbeatable, but inside the team, it was chaos. Shaq wanted a new contract. He felt disrespected by management. Kobe was dealing with legal issues off the court. His focus was in question, and the feud was now fully public. Shaq called Kobe selfish. Kobe said Shaq was out of shape and lazy. They stopped speaking to each other entirely. Despite the drama, they reached the 2004 NBA Finals. But they weren't the same. They ran into the Detroit Pistons, a tough, defensive-minded team that played like a family. The Lakers lost in 5 games. The dynasty was done. That summer, Shaq was traded to the Miami Heat. Phil Jackson stepped down. Kobe stayed in LA, becoming the face of the franchise. The breakup was complete. Part 5. Life after the feud. Both legends would go on to succeed, separately. Shaq joined the Heat and won a title with Dwayne Wade in 2006. Kobe eventually won 2 more championships in 2009 and 2010 with Pau Gasol. But they both admitted it was never the same. The dominance they had together, it was once in a lifetime. Over time, their relationship healed. They shared laughs on TNT. They spoke at events. Kobe even told Shaq's son to call him Uncle Kobe. They had grown. The wounds had healed. And when Kobe tragically passed in 2020, Shaq broke down in tears. He said, "I wish I had talked to him more. We could have won 10 championships together." Part 6. What could have been. The fall of the Kobe and Shaq dynasty remains one of the greatest what-ifs in NBA history, not because they failed, but because they succeeded so quickly and still let it all fall apart. In just 8 seasons together, they won 3 straight championships, made 4 finals appearances, dominated the 2001 playoffs with a near-perfect 15-1 run. They were unstoppable. Shaq, the most dominant big man since Wilt. Kobe, a young assassin who hadn't even reached his full prime yet. And yet, by 2004, it was over. They were still in their 20s. Phil Jackson was still coaching. The roster still had depth. They had the city, the spotlight, the system, everything. All they needed was each other. But ego won. They didn't lose to the Pistons. They lost to pride, miscommunication, and a battle for control. If they had stayed together, if they had just found a way to make it work, they could have won 6, 7, maybe even 10 championships. More than Jordan, more than Duncan, maybe more than any team in history. Years later, both Shaq and Kobe admitted it. We could have been the greatest ever if we stayed together. But they didn't. And instead of what was, we're left with what could have been. A dynasty shattered from within. A legacy that could have reached the stratosphere, but never quite did. And that question still lingers. What if Shaq and Kobe had stayed together? Legends, but separate. The Kobe and Shaq era was one of the most iconic in NBA history. It was dominance. It was drama. It was unforgettable. They may have fought, but together they achieved greatness. And sometimes, greatness burns too hot to last. They will always be linked, in banners and highlights and memory. 2 kings, 1 dynasty, 1 unforgettable feud.